That is right. Back with Fantasy Sanctuary, Draftkings Best Ball. It's Wednesday. We are always live for these. Joined by the one and only Crying Buffalo, Felix, the man who took down the Draftkings Milly Maker 2 years ago. We're going to talk all about that, all about taking aggressive stances on players. And we are going to draft in the Draftkings Milly Maker. Let's get into it. Felix, our time of year, best ball season is truly upon us. How's it finding you?
It's great. It's finally summertime. My son just graduated kindergarten today, so that is officially best ball summer now for me.
So how much have you been drafting over the last few weeks since the draft? Obviously, we had the pre-draft contest, which were out there, but then once everything really launched a couple of weeks ago, have you been on multiple platforms? Have you just been kind of holding back, waiting for the schedule? What's been your approach these last couple of weeks?
So I wanted to hit about 10% in Underdog and in DraftKings. I finally hit that this past week, which is like good timing. And now that we get the schedule out, I'm feeling excited about having Najee going against KC tonight, or knowing that information. And then I plan to, probably hit 20% by the end of May and kind of hit 20% to a little bit more each month until the start of the season. And then pound drafters that last week because the lobbies will start filling faster and faster and hit it that way.
Yeah, I mean, what would it be like if best ball season didn't involve just hammering drafters for that last week and taking advantage of the overlay? That's absolutely something we'll get to in due course. But you kind of mentioned pounding Najee. I kind of came to know you on Twitter as the Najee guy for a long time, and I know you've definitely built up a reputation with that. But for people who perhaps don't know, you've taken some incredibly strong stances on players. I believe the year that you won the Milly Maker, weren't you very high on Cooper Kupp that year? Like, can you tell us a bit about like your strongest stances and the kind of thesis behind why you're open to taking those stands?
So the year I won it, there was a strategy I thought of before I entered a bunch in, was that I wanted Cooper Kupp and Chris Godwin. They were going right next to each other, and I thought this might be a unique pairing, and they're both going to be on explosive offenses, so I thought, and nailed those two picks. And I thought Jamar Chase was just at the wrong price because I had only seen him at LSU scoring like 6 touchdowns, in that college football playoff game. And I was like, this dude's amazing. He's going to fly up the boards the next year. And then I had a bunch of Gabe Davis, Mark Andrews, and Leonard Fournette. And the team that won it was a Tampa Bay stack, and they had an amazing season. And I sprinkled. I didn't have like 90% ASB, but I did have quite a bit of ASB, which ended up being like one of the biggest wins out of the 20th round. My highest owned player was actually none of those guys. It was Colin Johnson, the 6'7" wide receiver from Texas, who ended up getting cut that season and playing it for the Giants as like a 3rd string wide receiver or 4th string wide receiver.
So, I mean, that's what I really love about that is, it kind of shows the later you get on in drafts, those exposures, they matter a whole lot less. I think, what you win when you win there was a massive outcome. That if Colin Johnson had been great, then it would have been fantastic to be that heavy. But obviously you can skirt by and you can get by without that. So heading towards this year, do you have kind of exposure levels in mind where you feel comfortable taking certain players to already? Are the players that you'll be willing to go above 40%, above 50% on?
So as some people may know, I'm already at 100% of Najee through about 20-ish drafts on each site. And I've only not gotten him once on Underdog. And now I think is going to rise to the 6th round. So I'm drafting him in the 7th, knowing that he has a high potential to go to the 6th. And I'm pairing him up with other players I see that could also move. Because that 6th to 10th round are just all like the same level type player. Because I don't think I'm missing anything by drafting all one player that I do think is going to succeed underneath Arthur Smith. I know you're a Ravens fan, so I'm not going to say that, they have an easy division or anything. I know they still got them twice a week or twice a year. But I do think that with Arthur Smith, and not running like delayed shotgun runs is like only going to benefit Najee and finally get a head of steam underneath him.
When you look at the offensive line upgrades they've made this year, like we had Nez from the Badge Bros, who's also a Steelers fan on Monday night, and he talked about it, and he was, he's trying hard not to get all in on it, but hey, I mean, look, we've got Deft Angel in the chat who said he drafted his second Najee share in 2 years today. I'm completely there with Najee as well. I'm obviously not quite as where you are, but the first time I'm feeling like the price completely makes sense because it's not only about him, it's last year for me, the difference between where Najee was going and where Jalen Warren was going didn't make sense to me. But this year, I can pick or choose one of them, and I know that they've probably got fairly similar range of outcomes within, their range of outcomes is pretty similar if they're both healthy. But if either one of them becomes the workhorse and one of them goes down, it could be massive. But in terms of other players, is there anyone else that you feel strongly that you'd get up to 40, 50% on this year?
I do have a couple. I just want to go back to one more Najee point. It was last year I was so high on Najee because I saw that they were facing Seattle in week 17. And even though he was going to be my guy regardless, their run defense, they did not improve their run defense the year before to that year. And they were getting shredded on the defensive line. And so I was like, it's probably going to happen again. So that was like the premise between Najee last year as well. And then this year, I'm loving the Jags, man. The Jags are like severely underpriced in comparison to what they can do. Like another 4,000-yard passer, going in the 10th, 11th round, paired with you can get Kirk in the 5th, you can get Brian Thomas in the 6th, you can get Gabe Davis in the 120 area, so the 10th round area. I think he's just a smash as many Jags as you can right now before people find out they're playing some really easy schedule week 17. And I don't know.
No, I love it. I think it makes plenty of sense. And Brian Thomas was a player that when I did my initial rankings, I was quite aggressive on because I expected ADP to really push him quite high. And it's just not really got there yet. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, shall I bring Brian Thomas down a little bit, or is ADP going to catch up with him soon? There's no point doing anything now until the schedule is out tonight and we see who we get in week 17 and what happens there. But we will get into a draft. So if you're waiting to draft alongside us tonight, we're going to jump in just a second. Felix, you were saying how many of these Draftkings Milly Makers have you done so far?
I think I've done 17. And then I've done the single entry $5 last night, the $1 $8 and $1 $3. I wanted to throw one little share into those just in case it got lucky, and took it down.
Yeah, the $5 single entry is definitely an interesting contest, and it does feel pretty good. How do you feel about the DraftKings landscape since you won it all 2 years ago? Do you feel like things have changed dramatically in terms of the people that are drafting in the rooms?
For sure. 100%. Yes, there are still the prototypical brand new people who don't know what they're doing in there and just drafting names that they've heard of. Yes, those people are still there, but the majority of drafters are stacking now. They are, I don't know yet if they're drafting for week 17 this year, but we're going to find out fairly quickly coming up soon. But I do think the drafters have improved overall. And I love the selection of drafts that they've had to draft from.
They've definitely made it a bit more fun and a bit more interesting in some ways. We're going to be picking at the 104 here. Do you have a particular draft slot that you're really enjoying?
The 3 to 7 honestly is my favorite section of the draft. I've actually had 0, 1, 2, and I've had only 2 12 slots. So I've had like a bunch of right in the middle, which is right where I want to be drafting. So I can get Chase, I can get Jefferson, I can get like those really good players from last year that just taking a little bit of a discount.
No, I really like that. Yeah, I've been in a lot of 11 and 12 spots or the 101. So landing here kind of feels a bit more fun, feels like we should actually get some good selection. Before we get to it, Felix, I know you're a busy man streaming and you're kind of popping up on your channel and stuff. Do you want to tell people where they can find you normally on your shows?
So on Mondays, I do rankings on my Patreon, Best Ball, Patreon Best Ball Nation, and then I'm over at Best Ball Nation YouTube on Tuesdays from 8:30 for about an hour and a half. On today, we just happen to be over here today, and then on Thursdays, I'm over at the Fantasy Football Plus Network for going live over there.
Nice. And if you have not hit subscribe here, make sure you do
Absolutely.
that. We truly appreciate everyone who has taken us past the 2,000 mark. So we are up in just one pick. Mm-hmm. Nothing too crazy. Christian McCaffrey and CD Lamb off the board. Are we taking Najee with our first round pick, Felix, or where are we going here?
You're not going to hear me tell you no, but no, we should go Chase. We should go Chase.
Yeah. If Jamar Chase is one of those players that, like, when I first kind of looked at the rankings, it was like, man, if T. Higgins goes, Jamar Chase is just the clear 101 for me. Yeah. Like,
honestly, he's still my 101 in my head. As soon as I get 25 shares of CD and Lamb, he's going to be my 101. I want as many Chase teams as I can get. I love Chase. Also, a little bit of bias. He was on my Milly Maker winning team, and he did put up 56 points. So, you know, that week. That DraftKings bonus points was awesome, man.
I think, like, how many of those players from the Milly Maker team will you continue drafting even when they're, like, in their real, late phase?
I'm smashing all of them, man. I grabbed Chase in the first. I grabbed Cooper Kupp in the second or third. I grabbed Chris Godwin. I grabbed Devin Singletary. I've drafted the same guys. I just can't draft Tom Brady or Gronkowski anymore.
Is Brady finally out of the play? Oh, he's there.
He's still playable. He could go to. I heard that something about going to the Raiders or something.
Yeah, he's kind of buying an ownership share and something, but it feels a little tenuous.
I highly doubt he'll ever go back.
Yeah,
especially after that roast.
Yeah. Man was surprised to find out that his kids wouldn't enjoy seeing their dad get the piss taken out of him quite so strongly. Like, really, really weird.
Take one out of the spot here.
Deft Angel saying Tevin Coleman won me a trophy you never forget. I've got a Curtis Samuel jersey in the cupboard, the Panthers one.
I got Najee right behind me because I actually didn't get to watch any of the games the year I won it. I was on a flight back from Austin, Texas, and that got delayed on the landing strip. So there was no service. I could barely watch, pixels, barely orange pixels, green pixels on my little phone. And I didn't really get to watch any of it, but.
But then, of course, there would have been the Monday night. Did you manage to watch that live?
And of course, I watched the Steelers. That's why in my head, Najee did, the majority of it. I also had Chubb that game, and Nick Chubb did zilch. They ended up benching Nick Chubb. That was the year that Baker Mayfield. They just set him up for failure that game.
I had sweat on New Year's Eve this year in the FFPC Superflex, and because of the time difference, we were out for dinner on New Year's Eve with another family and with 4 kids around the table. 3 other adults with no interest in the NFL whatsoever, and me quietly checking my phone. It was not optimal, but such is life. We are a few picks away. As you can see, I've got the Spike Week overlay here. If you want to get access to this, I mean, I'm a big fan of it. I use it all the time when I'm drafting. You can get 40% off by hitting the join button below, choose the Golden Deck Chair tier, and you will get that discount code, and it makes it cheaper to subscribe to both us and Spike Week than it does to subscribe to just Spike Week on their own. We're 2 picks away. I'm sorting by ADP rather than my rankings, which need a bit of a refresh. Brandon Ayuk at the top, Devon Achane, Nico Collins, Travis Kelce, who keeps rising, and Stephon Diggs. Anybody in particular that you'd be smashing here?
I'm smashing A-Chain, but that's me. You go with whatever you feel here.
I don't really feel terribly strongly about most of the players in this range, but I have been seeing Achane slip, so I maybe make a case for Nico Collins and see if Achane comes back around, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, Michigan guy. I'm all about
it. Achane, I feel like I took him at pick 30 earlier today, or was it yesterday? And it just feels like there's enough of a question mark about Jalen Wright, Raheem Mostert, that some people and some rooms you get into, people just aren't particularly keen on him. But Travis Kelce getting up to 23 and becoming like it's. I mean, I got him in the 4th yesterday or on Sunday on Rob's
show on He Yells on Sundays, and I got him in the 4th round. I'm like, second round, Travis Kelce just seems too much for me.
Yep. Devin Achan does go, so we're back up with Mike Evans, Sam Laporta, DJ Moore, Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel's kind of a player I lean towards in this range, but
yeah, I'm down. I had him ranked at 20 when Draftkings came out, so I'm okay with that.
Well, anyone who's in our Discord will know that me and Rich go back and forth over Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel constantly, but I think either of those players are completely solid picks in the second round.
Yeah, I don't think you go wrong either way there.
Yeah, and it seems like there's the potential that if something did happen and one of them got traded, is both of them could be second round pick values. Yeah. As Rory says, as night follows day, Tom takes Debo. But, you know, we're mixing it up. That's why it's good for me to draft with other people. I think in terms of the drafts you've done, do you feel like you're falling into a lot of 0 RB builds to start the year? Because, I mean, we're kind of like 5-6 DraftKings, 5-6 Best Ball streams in on this channel, and a good chunk of them have been 0 RB drafts so far.
I've been both. I've been a little bit of 0 RB, hero RB. Honestly, I balance building this a lot more this year. Taking a tight end if they fall to me. I don't have any huge stands in the first 2 rounds this year, like I have had it in the past. It's a lot of good players, not a lot of amazing players in these rounds. I don't think you can go wrong. I think mixing and matching correlation like picks is the best way to go about it in these rounds, because they all can produce. I am a big fan of Cooper Kupp in the 3rd, and he was going late 3rd at the beginning of the draft season, and now he's been going towards sometimes in the 2nd I've seen on DraftKings and towards the turn picks now.
The disparity between him and Puka Nacua, it's too much for me.
Puka Nacua got hurt like a lot in college from what I've heard, and it's like, well, that obviously could happen in the NFL easily, and it's like not trying to play injury, but if something happens to Puka, like Cooper Kupp is a smash pick.
Absolutely, but like even just like when they were both on the field at the same time and both healthy, their target share really wasn't that different. They were both getting a lot, and like I'm very much in on Cooper Kupp again, even though last year I was very heavy on Cooper Kupp and it did not pay off. But Josh Allen's kind of slipped from, I mean, he was going fringe round 2 and now he's slid all the way down to the 4th. Do you think that's just because people aren't excited about his wide receiver options, or do you think it's more people are kind of okay with that next tier?
I think it's room to room, but I do think that he has slipped because of his wide receiver options. I'm personally mid 3rd round. He's okay. Like, I'm not excited to draft Josh Allen as I once was, but I see the upside, the single game upside, what you need to have in DraftKings, especially in a 1,000-person final. You kind of have to have that kind of upside. If you get him to fall, better, but.
Yeah. Do you remember how big was the field when you won the Milly Maker?
It was pretty small. It was like 400, I think. Honestly, I didn't see it because I was already in the top 10 when I landed in the plane.
You didn't scroll down.
I honestly didn't. Oh yeah, we're back on the clock. Oh, there's
one pick.
All right, right?
Yeah, so T is an absolute smash for me. I think it makes too much sense. I think when he reports to training camp on time, or if he gets a new contract, then he's absolutely going to jump in price. And I would take T straight up over Keon Coleman, over Zay Flowers, over Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf.
The year I won it, I had 13 teams into the semis because I built. So a lot of my strategy goes along is building like the same team with a little bit of variation. And all of my teams got pretty much wiped out except because T. Higgins went off that week. And if I would have had a bunch of T. Higgins to bounce off that ownership, it would have been a lot nice. I would have had like a lot more teams in the finals that year.
And there we go. We see some week 17 correlation with Mark Andrews going with CJ Stroud. First of those fixtures starting to leak out. But no, I really like what you're saying in terms of like how you build your teams, because if this was a DFS contest, that's what the 150 maxes are doing. They find their core and they build around it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's just a common game theory point. It's not even controversial. So we've got 4 wide receivers: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel. I'm kind of okay with Christian Kirk, Anthony Richardson. You could talk me into Dalton Kincaid, maybe. Anyone you'd particularly like, Felix?
I like the Kincaid, but we're obviously not going to get it correlated. Mahomes is a big faller here, and then I'm personally taking Kirk every time here. But
let's go, Kirk. I know that speaking to you before we got on that the Jags are in play, and we've got 5 wide receivers nicely. Anyone who spends much time in my Discord knows that I want 5 wide receivers before round 10, and we tick that off nice and early. ATX Bearcat asks, did DK do away with sorting players by team? It's not something I've looked for. I know they used to do it on the...
You could do it on UD. DraftKings, used to be able to do it like on the DFS
You could do it on the app as well, but...
Could you do it by the team? I don't remember doing it by the team.
Yeah, it used to be on the app for a year or maybe even 2 years, but it feels like it turned up quite late in the day last year after being there before. But yeah, sorry to say, it does not look like it's there. But it'd be
a big shout out to DraftKings. I sent them an email last year asking for a draft board, color coded, having our preset ranks in there, like our be able to import ranks. I sent them an email about like just more tournaments throughout like the off season. And they've hit on everything I've asked for them to do. I hope they ask me again and I can get some more feedback or give them more feedback, but they haven't asked again since then. But I think they've done an amazing job for when I won the Milly to now.
Absolutely. I mean, there's constantly tournaments. The King of the Desert stuff last year wasn't
a little repetitive.
Yeah, mix it up a little bit, but it also just showed the appetite is there for the budget stuff. Like if you put stuff out, it's going to fill. We do have our first kind of real renegade picks of this round, though, with Drake May going at the 5-7.
He took Saquon Barkley in the first. He was a little bit offhand.
So I don't know whether this person's rankings are completely renegade or whether they're just hitting auto pocket from the auto draft from the pocket, but yeah, it's kind of getting a bit crazy. Lad McConkey goes at the 601. Is he someone you've taken much of, Felix? Like I
haven't gotten any of them. It's just price is just going higher and higher. I have to reset my ranks, and I feel like on an hourly basis to keep up with that guy, I can't keep up with him.
I said that like I'd chased Lad McConkey up as high as the 7th, and then almost a day later he was in the 6th round, and you just go.
Like I love the pick. I just don't think I can get it for where he's going versus others, and I don't think he has the same upside as other people do. Like I want this to be a little bit pass happier offense that people are actually thinking, but I don't think it's going to be that pass happy offense, and I don't think Lad's going to be introduced to the offense that fast.
Yeah, I mean, the full PPR format makes it slightly more appealing, but I just kind of think. For me now, it's going to be a structural question of, do I need a wide receiver? Have the other wide receivers that I'd really want been taken? And if so, then yeah, I can justify it. But give me Terry McLaurin over Lad McConkey any day of week. I really feel good about Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and that kind of Jaden Daniels.
Ridley. Yeah. You like Calvin Ridley at all this year, or are you out?
I'm kind of undecided on Calvin Ridley, and I've been taking like him now and again when he falls past ADP, or again if it's a structural thing. I think for me, I'm kind of leaning more to DeAndre Hopkins because I think his ADP and the disparity is.
I never get to see DeAndre Hopkins because I'm always taking Najee where he kind of goes.
So we are a few picks away. We've got Anthony Richardson, who's fallen around past ADP at the top, Marquise Brown, Jaden Reed, Aaron Jones, Joe Burrow, who if he falls to us, give us that option for the double stack, and then it's David Montgomery, Rome Odunze, Evan Ingram, if we wanted to build out a bit more of a Jag stack. My lean would be to go with Joe Burrow here, but I also, I could be talked into Anthony Richardson if we got sniped by the team on the clock.
I agree. If we get sniped by him, then I think go A-Rich for – okay, we're good. Yeah. A-Rich would have been a good pick regardless, like because we could run him naked and have and get – even if we got him here and got Joe Burrow on the 7th, like I wouldn't be mad about a naked A-Rich just because he can produce without having amazing points from his pass catchers.
Yeah, we got Michael here down at the 11th spot saying that he would take that Jalen Hurts pick back if he could. He's got him with AJ Brown, Drake London, DK Metcalf. I mean, looks fine to me. I can understand, the QBs went a little bit crazy as they sometimes do on DraftKings, but it feels decent. So we're a few picks away with Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, and Joe Burrow. If you didn't see on Twitter today, we have a place available in the Scott Fish Bowl. All you need to do is subscribe to this channel, send us a picture, and we will enter you into the draw and draw it live on Sunday when we will be talking all things charity fantasy football contests with Matt from the JTT Cup. 2 picks away.
Yeah.
For me, this one would be Evan Ingram if he falls to us.
Makes no sense. So on my channel, we say the 7th round is for Najee, but that's on my channel. So we'll take Evan Ingram here.
Well, maybe we'll get.
We can say maybe we'll get lucky on the 8th round here, but
92 in ADP. There's still plenty of time, but it opens up the second stack for us, and
it opens a game stack. Obviously, it's not going to be week 17 because they got the Steelers, or they got the Chiefs. In week 17.
I think my approach to tight end this year has been that I want to get one by the time I hit the 10th round. It just feels
if you don't get one by the 10th round, you just punt it, grab 2 to 3 that kind of correlate, and hope for the best. I won it with one tight end, and that was Gronk, and he put up 2-0. I put up a 2 and a 0 week 15 and 16, and then I got a big game week 17. Luckily.
So was that a one tight end build, or were you?
It had Robert Tonyan, who got put on the IR week 4 that year. So it was practically a one tight end. It was a higher end tight end, but it was practically one tight end.
Because I think the tight end position is the position that I spend the most time thinking about how many I want of in a draft. Quarterback, it's like I'm fine with 2, fine with 3, and I know that after last year, a lot of people are leaning towards 3. Yeah, and I know the winner the year after you had 4 quarterbacks, 2 of who barely played.
Weren't they all correlated? And I'm like, what? This guy just doesn't. This guy just got lucky. Like it happens. People do get lucky. I got lucky, right? But I think it goes year to year. You can't say this thing's going to work this year because it worked last year. I think the player pool is different. Rookie tight ends last year, I was smashing 3 tight ends last year because I could get Luke Musgrave, Samuel Laporta, and I would get I don't remember who my 3rd tight end was, but I would get a random 3rd tight end, and it's it worked out last year for the 3 tight end builds. But this year, I mean, people are pushing Ben Sinnott he's not even going to be the day 1 starter out there. They're pushing him like he is. I don't really get all that jazz. Oh, Najee goes. See, that's what I got.
Najee goes to Michael at the 11th turn. One of our YouTube subscribers who's been in a lot of our DraftKings drafts over the last few years. A very smart guy who's done some great data visualization stuff with Established to Run. So we'll just chalk that one up to being.
Well, I mean, obviously, he's a smart guy. He took Najee. That's a smart play to do.
But yeah, in terms of how this draft's played out since the Drake May pick, it's kind of settled down. Everything feels fairly regular. I mean,
this guy, he just every once in a while wants to just take his guy, which is, do your best, man.
And Michael's saying sorry. We'll forgive him because he is a nice guy. We're back on the clock.
So Jalen Warren?
Zach Moss, Jalen Warren. I'd be fine with Jalen Warren at this pick if you like that.
I just like having divisional matchups before we know the schedule.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I did see the Steelers running does look pretty miserable. I think they've got the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Chiefs, but we'll take Jalen Warren for that kind of explosiveness.
They got Arthur Smith. He is the running back guru. He might use all of them. He might use every running back they got, but man, he can open up a hole.
I think it definitely got lost a little bit last year how much Najee Harris did look better at times with the Steelers. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
He was leading the league for a while there with explosive plays.
Which has always been the knock on him and the kind of stuff that people like me, certified Najee haters over the years, would throw at him. And
I said, Leah was Najee hating on Twitter anytime he could, man. Anytime he could. Anytime.
Well, those who live in glass houses and draft Gabe Davis.
I'm a Gabe Davis drafter myself, so I can't say anything.
So
what do we got here?
We could take Brock Purdy here as our second quarterback to stack with Debo, or we could push it and see if Trevor Lawrence comes back, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jonathan Brooks.
Or Jonathan Brooks here.
Let's go Jonathan Brooks. I really like Brooks, and I feel like all the indications are pretty positive about his health, and I'm kind of confident that you're talking about a player who could be a 7th-round pick come August or so.
Well, he could easily flop even more if he's looks explosive in any preseason game. Let's just put it out there. When the Steelers looked like they were going to blow the roof off everybody's doors at the beginning of the preseason, they started shooting up. I can easily see if Jonathan Brooks plays at all, he's going to be this year's Dameon Pierce, where he's almost undraftable where he's going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the final, when you were in it, and obviously, I'm asking you to remember something from a few years ago, so tell me.
All in here.
How much do you feel like DraftKings is more in tune with stacking now? Because I feel like 2 years ago on Underdog, it was very commonplace, but DraftKings, it's taken a little while to catch up. If you had to put a number on it, how many teams per draft do you think have got good stacks in every room?
For me, I stacked every team. But I was pretty heavy into DFS at that point. And I was watching the Osimo guy, not the I guess Stochastic / Osimo guys were doing drafts all the time. And they were just showing a whole bunch of stacking options. And it's if you do this, it just levels up your game. And I was like, okay, well, that just makes sense. So I personally was doing it at every draft. And then I was in rooms with Chess is Okay and Adam Scher and lobbies with them all the time. So I know that they were doing it, but the overall, I don't think it was done as much. I think it has progressed as just second nature to most drafters. But when you find people out of the 7-hole here who doesn't exactly probably know what he's doing, you might find a little less stacking.
Brock Purdy with George Kittle. Yeah, so we've kind of rescued it. Maybe there was a bit of an auto drafting situation going on early, but we'll circle back to that one later.
I think Week 17 has definitely changed the game versus stacking. I think for the most part, people knew about stacking. I think Week 17 is a whole new market. People were not doing that back then. I wasn't doing it. I just happened to luck into all of my teams being against one another. I had the Jets versus the Bucks. I had the Browns versus the Steelers. I had all these I didn't think of them being correlated, but they end up being fairly.
I know that DraftKings doesn't give us much in the way of this sort of information, but do you have any idea how early you drafted that team that year? Or
because all the teams that I was drafting were very similar. And so, it's hard. I have no idea. I don't even know if it was fast or slow because I was doing one fast and then one slow every day. So I don't even know whether it was fast or slow.
Are you still a slow fast guy?
So last year I got dominated in the slow game. So I'm out. I give up to those people who actually have real time because I was doing it because it was a little bit of a time saver. But I got destroyed. I got destroyed last year on slow drafts.
For me, I found that not logging in through my phone and making the picks, but actually getting to the computer, pulling up the Spike Week overlay.
See, I draft my phone too much.
Yeah, it's the phone picks are the ones where I'll accidentally make bad calls. So we're back up. We could push quarterback around the corner, I think. Romeo Doubs, Khalil Shakir, Tyler Lockett, Chase Brown, which gives a bit more Bengals correlation.
My picks here are always Chase Brown and T-Law, that I have been doing a lot lately. So that's what I've been doing, but you go whichever way you think is the better.
No, that's good. I mean, just looking at the board, it felt like with these two teams on the left, both having two quarterbacks, and the team to the left of us.
Well, I have to assume Carter Gass is in the chat. I'm not judging. You got some kind of push flag. I don't know. I'm just gonna guess.
It's not a name I remember off the top of my head, but Carter Gas, if you are watching the stream and you're in this draft board, do let us know, because I'd like to know how much I can get past you. But with CJ Stroud and Caleb
Well, he
Williams
had that
already,
nice little stacking option.
yeah.
Just a little bit.
The redcoats are in this draft room. So yeah, we're one pick away, and if Trevor Lawrence, there we go. Trevor Lawrence makes it to us. So with Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, Joe Burrow, Evan Ingram, Jalen Warren, Jonathan Brooks, Chase Brown, Trevor Lawrence. We've got two really nice stacks in which you can see over on the right-hand side. And it just feels to me like I'd be content going into this draft with two quarterbacks, or is this a quarterback room where you'd add a third?
No, this is where I stop it too. If I didn't get Joe Burrow and it was T-Law, I'm probably drafting two more after T-Law, but because I think T-Law is going to be a one himself, but we already got a one, so we have 2 ones in my head, and so I think we're good there. And then honestly, I'd probably stop drafting Jags after I get Gabe Davis here, and we're good with those 2 team stacks. And then we start working at maybe our second and third team correlated picks, or our 2 other little mini stacks after that.
Yep, and just having a quick glance on Twitter, it doesn't seem like we've got a Jags Week 17 game leak just yet. But if you're in the chat and if you've heard who the Jags might be playing, feel free to throw that information at us. It does seem like as we're getting through today, more and more team schedules are just ending up out there already. What are the positives for Trevor this year? Last year felt shaky and not sure how much better the offense is from Spurious News. I mean, I get that. I think what I come back to is that the Jags offense has to grow. Calvin Ridley was in such a narrow role last year, and he was used such a defined way. And I'd like to think that the Jags coaching staff are smart enough that they might recognize that they need to give some in-breaking routes occasionally rather than just vertical routes and back of the end zone stuff. And Brian Johnson, I'm not sure how much worse he is than Calvin Ridley. I just don't feel like it's much of a step down.
Yeah. And I think Gabe Davis is a step up from Zay. I think that Brian Thomas, apparently he ran the Trevor Lawrence's favorite routes. I don't know how much that actually plays into it, but apparently he ran the routes that Trevor Lawrence succeeded at throwing. If that means anything, I don't know, but that's a positive. I guess you could look at it in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more of a stat nerd than a film watcher, but I go back to the people who know ball all seem to still be very high on Trevor Lawrence as a player. And, you look at guys like Nate Tice, Josh Norris, they all still really believe in him and what he can do. So when those kind of
easier schedule this year as well, which I always think is a perfect way to have pick your players from. Who's going to have the easier type schedule?
Yes, so we're back on the clock. We're not touching 2, 3, 5, 1. I am completely fine not touching Zeke. I've been taking some when he falls past ADP. We have Pat Fryermuth, Rico Dowdle, Zach Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins, Jalen Wright, Ben Sinnott, Luke Musgrave.
I'm a /Fryermuth if you want him.
Let's go Fryermuth because it's like we are really on the precipice of tight end.
Falling off, I agree.
Yeah, it gets really miserable very quickly. We've got our first team with 3 quarterbacks sat next to us: Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, and Aaron Rodgers.
That's not a bad pairing. 3 non-running type quarterbacks. You're just hoping to have a consistent play there. Which I didn't think Kirk was going to come back as fast as he has, so I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Spurious saying Jags Week 17 options are New England, Tennessee, or LA Chargers.
That's a good option.
That would be fun. Definitely some stuff we like. So in terms of players next, this is the kind of area of the draft I really just don't enjoy. There's not anybody.
I moved up the rookie running backs, all the rookie running backs I like. I put them all next to Jalen Wright. I brought in Marshawn Lloyd and Ray Davis next to him. And I just like taking one of those 3 every time I draft there. It doesn't matter who's there. I'm just taking one of them. And then I just feel good about those rookie running backs and just in general. One of them's going to pop. I don't know which one, but I like to take the chance on one of those guys.
Well, you call it, Felix. Which one of those guys do you want?
Let's go Ray Davis. That sounds like fun this time.
Nice. I haven't drafted much Ray Davis, but I mean, if he ends
He
up
was
just
one of my
being
bigger picks in the big board. He was going like the semi. Ray Burton already went. Jeez, I guess that makes sense.
I think like Ray Davis, I mean, if he's just Latavius Murray with more juice, then he's paid off ADP already. Definitely feel good about that. We have a 2-4-5-2 so far. Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, Joe Burrow, Evan Ingram, Jalen Warren, Jonathan Brooks, Chase Brown, Trevor Lawrence, Pat Freiermuth, and Ray Davis. It's a nice team. I feel pretty pleased with this one. I think sometimes when you start with 5 straight wide receivers, you feel like you might be chasing yourself a little bit at a position. But yeah, any thoughts from you, Felix?
I mean, see, this is why I was saying we like to balance. Like, I like the balance builds this year. It's like, yeah, we went 5 straight, but we kind of balanced it out. We didn't try to balance it out. It just kind of fell to us, and that's kind of how I like how to do it.
I think there's definitely some value in doing that when you're drafting early. There's times like when it gets to training camp and stuff, and I feel more convinced about which running backs have roles. There's probably going to be a period where I'm more open to dual RB builds, and then knowing, okay, I can take 2 up top, and then I'm going to only take 3 more total, but they're going to be players I feel really confident about. So, yeah. What was your build for year you won?
3 quarterbacks. I don't remember how many running backs I had. I can pull it up real quick, actually, if you want to vamp for half a second.
So, yeah, I mean, for me, we've seen 2 years ago, we saw the team which was terribly uncorrelated. I think that was a hero RB build. Then last year was a 0 RB team. I think Aaron Jones was the first running back taken in about round 5 or so. And that was a Dak team, which was a 3 QB team the year after the 4 QB team won it. So we definitely see a lot of different ways to build, but I think
holy cow, I didn't realize I didn't have that many running backs. I had, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs. So it was 5 running backs. I had running backs. Okay, so 3, 5. So that's 8. I had 2, 10. So 3, 5, 10, 2.
Nice. That's I like that because that's the kind of build which you don't see very often. I mean, you know, I've run the numbers on the last 2 finals, and the predominant build is always 3-6-8-3, that kind of balanced build where you're not getting too fragile. But I think what people lose is the fact that building fragile can give you a big advantage. We are back on the clock with our 2-4-5-2. Luke Musgrave kind of falling. I've been out on him, but I don't hate it. Scrolling down, Michael Wilson, Tyler Algier, Hunter Henry, which could round out our tight end room, or Roman Wilson for a bit.
I think Roman Wilson to get another little piece of the Steelers, and now we have this huge Steelers Bengals. If that game blows up and it's a good like week 16 game that could put us into the finals, who knows?
Yeah, definitely. So we're a few picks away. Again, in terms of this area of the draft, let's say it's a bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
We've got Tyron Tracy, who's up 10 spots in ADP in like the last week alone. Luke McCaffrey, who's kind of climbing a little bit. Juwan Johnson, who hasn't really moved much at all. He's fallen slightly. Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley, I thought was going to catch a little steam, but then the Jets put out a video of him like catching a ball 1 yard away and it dropped a little. Kamani Vidal at 172 is kind of interesting. If we ended,
we're gonna go with the heavy rookie running back team here. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, if the Jags ended up playing them, that could be interesting.
Yeah,
and I think when it comes to the rookie running backs, you just need one to hit in a really strong way, and it can make up for some pretty average performances. But anyone else in terms of Tyler Algier?
Nothing's really hitting my fancy here. I like Vidal.
Let's go Vidal, and then I think now we're at a point with 2-5-6-2 where we can really just scoop value and scoop, you know, whatever works.
Looks good there. Yeah,
because I mean, Pat Freiermuth, he definitely hasn't been consistent in a way we wanted, but he's also had terrible quarterback play. But I could if we got shut out at tight end going to a season with Evan Ingram and Pat Freiermuth as a 2 tight end build, I don't think we'll need to because there's still plenty of value around there, but I don't hate it. In this area of the draft, Felix, like, this is Pete Overzet's scroll the F down range. Who have players been who you've been kind of like, I'm going to reach on players here. These are the players I have to have on my rosters.
You know what? I'm totally down for that theory when we get more information. This year, I've been more of a conservative Nancy. I've been drafting players I know are going to get some playing time. I've been bitten by the zero bug a little too hard the last couple of years. So I'm drafting players I know is going to get some work. And maybe I'm not drafting the Puka, this early on. But I will get that Puka player later. But if I was going to say a couple players that I've been drafting, let me pull up my exposures real quick. Javon Baker, fairly late, I guess. Audric Estime. I think he could easily take that job in Denver. I feel like Javonte might be on the way out, and he's just trying to wash over this whole team and start all over. Trying to think who else is late here. Vidal was one of my guys, but he's been rising. Malik Washington. I'm not scared of OBJ for Malik Washington, late season type player. Could be this year's ASV. A guy that's not highly touted, but a guy that has a high talent range could easily be, Waddle gets injured like every other series, and then OBJ is like 40 years old, it feels like. And
I think Eric Byenforth from Spike Week was on last week, and he was very much in on Malik Washington after despite the Beckham signing. It's very much one of those, which I think if you're looking for a player to make a difference late on in the season, I'm always down with the rookies for that.
One guy out of the Ravens, the guy, Devontae Walker.
Devontae Walker,
yeah. He's been something I've been drafting a couple times here and there.
So Spurious says in the chat, doing the Lord's work, spreading some Week 17 confirmations that the Bengals play Denver in Week 17. Marvin Mims is a couple of picks away. We could try pushing that around the corner maybe. But I'd be fine taking Marvin Mims. We haven't taken a wide receiver.
One of my highest on tight ends is Isaiah Likely as well. Just putting that out there.
So, I mean, I think Isaiah Likely.
We're good at tight end, but he did win me 20K in the Battle Royale Week 17 last year. I don't know how I took that thing down. This was my first time doing the Battle Royales, and I took it down. I was like, well, this is easy.
So was the year that you won the Milly Maker, how much best ball had you played before that?
I did the previous year, and I did 20 drafts. And that year, I won 50K in May that year that I won it. And I was like, well, I know football more than everybody else. I'll just do it. And I had this cocky arrogance about me that year. And I maxed it, of course, and took it down.
Man, I mean,
I probably had the best year anybody could have. I'm not trying to sound like a big prick, but I had a 50% advance rate. It was I felt destined to win that year.
So Isaiah Likely makes it to us 21 picks past ADP. Let's just round out the tight end room and call that a day.
He's one injury away from being a tight end one.
I mean, we saw it. He was so good last year.
Yeah.
And the idea that Todd Monken, a guy who's thrived with 2 tight end systems in college, isn't going to be able to go, okay, well, we know Likely is capable of running that stuff now. Let's make some more plays for him. It's just, I'd be very surprised if that wasn't part of the thesis of why they didn't target a wide receiver more aggressively this year, that they didn't think it's because they could get Likely out there more often. So in terms of how the draft's going, we've got some fairly regular builds, nothing really standing out too much. Our guy,
a lot of 3 quarterbacks out here, see.
Yeah, our guy on the 1 turn has got Christian McCaffrey, Diggs, Kupp, Stroud, Mark Andrews for that Week 17 correlation. Aaron Jones as his second running back, Marquise Brown, Caleb Williams, Deontay Johnson, Mike Williams, Dalton Schultz, Zeke Elliott, Zach Charbonnet, JJ McCarthy, Malachi Corley, Javon Baker, DJ Chark. So it kind of feels like a nice team. In terms of the other teams in here, the team that went Renegade with Drake May at 5'7", They now have a 3-4-7-3 build.
Yeah.
I think the running backs, Damian Pierce, Austin Eckler,
Wait.
Raheem
See, look at
Mostert.
Polk was up way too high. I feel like is Polk going in the 10th round or 11th round? Is that not too high?
Oh, 11th. God, yeah, I missed over that.
Leggett also going to the 10th. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel like they go there.
Yeah, and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. Bo Nix the 14th. I don't know. I don't know. It's not getting thrown out because DraftKings doesn't throw out drafts. I don't think. Maybe they do if it's like clear collusion and it gets blown up on Twitter like you did last year. But I really don't think as long as you draft your team, they really won't throw it out. And if they do, they're more likely to give you zeros. I missed one draft falling asleep my first year, and they zeroed it out the entire year. Audric Estime, I want my guy there, but that's up to you.
No, I'm down with Audric Estime. I think when you look at this Broncos team, the check down was absolutely a massive part of it last year. Russell Wilson led the league in check downs. He had I think a ridiculous amount of throws at or behind the line of scrimmage. And then they brought in Bo Nix, who is also a check down artist. This is just Sean Payton's system. And one of those running backs is going to catch a lot of the ball.
So
and
I compared Bo Nix to Jake Locker. I mean, if you go back and look at the way they both play, they are very similar. I know that you guys, Spags, and you aren't like on the best of pages all the time, but like he keeps getting on me about comparing him to Jake Locker statistically wise. But if you watch them play, they're very similar people.
No, I like it. I think I could definitely see where you're coming from. So we've got 2 picks left, and we're at a 2-6-7-3.
Okay.
So for me, I definitely want at least one more wide receiver.
Yeah.
We haven't really done a lot with it. Greg Dortch, Elijah Moore, Jalen Tolbert, Alan Lazard.
I'll let you pick this one. This is a mish-pash room.
Yeah, it's definitely not the fun area of the draft. I just keep scrolling and and Jalen Tolbert goes.
I got a 20th round pick for you.
Okay, let's hold that for. Let's take Josh Reynolds for a bit of Denver correlation. Yeah. I think he had his moments in Detroit and was pretty good.
Honestly, if somebody drafts this player I'm about to say, good for you. He may not even play this year. Isaiah Williams from Illinois. He kind of reminded me of a discounted version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's like ranked like 1100th. So you keep scrolling all the way down. There he is. I Williams. There you go.
Is he on a team?
He got undrafted with the undrafted free agent from he went to Detroit.
Okay.
And he has a crazy backstory. I watched it. Decent take. He converted from quarterback to wide receiver. It looked good, and he looked like a good player. So
I'm pulling up.
And there's not a lot. They didn't bring in a lot of wide receivers in Detroit. I don't think that he's he could be cut. Obviously, he could not even play. But on the off chance, he makes the team, ASB gets hurt, we're pulling the leverage there.
So I've gone to Rich's rookie guide here, our Dynasty Guru, who put out 118 player profiles in his rookie guide.
He's not one of them.
Hit join below, silver tier, you'll get a free copy. Part of it is he has a Risco meter, which gives us an idea of what he feels like his range of outcomes is, and it's red across 1 and 2 and doesn't get any further than that. Williams, not for me, an undersized player who's not a great athlete and doesn't have one trait you can hang your hat on. But I tell you what, I'm absolutely down for the scroll the F down type pick.
This is the ultimate scroll the F down. I mean, he's practically one of the last players on the board, but he does, again, he might not even make the team, but if he does, he's a 1-for-1 replacement for ASB. And if no one's talking about the replacement for Amon-Ra.
But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we need to be looking at this point. Like the amount of picks which are going to get lost because they're rookies who don't make it out of camp. Look at Sean Tucker last year. So many people were convinced.
You're not going to lose because of this pick. You may not win because of this pick, but you're also not going to lose because of this pick. I drafted 95% Colin Johnson the year that I won it. He was on all of my teams. you're not going to lose because you drafted some guy that no one's ever heard of, and he went undrafted.
There's definitely a wide range of outcomes with what your best ball team is capable of. If it hits on so many other things, you can carry those injuries, you can do stuff. I had a team that, there we go, Isaiah Williams, welcome to the team. Excited to see how much exposure I get to you through the draft season.
How many times have you heard of Isaiah Williams before this conversation?
I mean, I edited Rich's rookie guide, so I must have read that page at least twice before, but it wasn't a name that I remembered at all. So I absolutely love the fact that you came on and brought a player that I had no idea about. But yeah, that feels pretty fun to me. So let's recap that. We were picking out the 4 slot. Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, Joe Burrow, Evan Ingram, Jalen Warren, Jonathan Brooks, Chase Brown, Trevor Lawrence, Pat Frymouth, Ray Davis, Roman Wilson, Kamani Vidal, Marvin Mims, Isaiah Likely, Audric Estime, Josh Reynolds, and Isaiah Williams. If Bengals do play Broncos, was that no? Which no? It was the, if the Bengals played the Broncos, then that is massive Week 17 correlation because we've got the 4 Bengals and the 3 Broncos. Yeah. We've got the Jags with 3 players, and if they play the Chargers, we've got Kamani Vidal, who may very well have taken over from the dusty running backs ahead of him by that point. Felix, how are you feeling about that one?
That was a fun team. I mean, if we did get Najee, so it's not like a A+, but I would give it an A. Like, it was a fun team. It has a lot of ways to advance. And we got like the scroll the F down player that no one's ever heard of and has the chance to advance.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I've felt good about quite a few teams I've drafted in the last couple of weeks. I don't know whether it's just like maybe after months of not drafting.
I feel so good about all of my teams so far. So I know it's probably going poorly, and I'm just not realizing it. I've been trying to diversify as best as I can, and obviously we know that I don't diversify that much, but I feel pretty good this year so far. I feel like the lobbies are not soft, but they're not as hard as they've been so far. I think once we get the schedule turned out tonight, I think the big boy drafters are going to be coming in and starting to draft with us. So
let's just I do want to just quickly look at Michael's team from the 11th spot. Says he took Najee. He went with a 2-5-10-3 build, which is something which I will go up to 10 wide receivers if I feel like I haven't got to where I want to in the first 9 picks for them. And that's where Michael's gone. You know, he had AJ Brown, Drake London, DK Metcalf, Jalen Hurts, Kyle Pitts, Kenneth Walker, Brian Thomas, Najee Harris, Dallas Goedert, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett, Gabe Davis, Marshawn Lloyd, Geno Smith, Bucky Irving, Wan'Dale Robinson, Khalil Herbert, Noah Fant, A.T. Perry, and Ionias Smith of the Eagles for a scroll the F down pick. I mean, that's a fun team, and I think like what he did in terms of getting to 10 wide receivers, only 4 wide receivers in the first 7 rounds, but then he just keeps smashing him. Got the Geno stack.
He got everything from Seattle. He got everything from Seattle except for Charbonnet.
Like, that's Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. Let's
he didn't get. Oh yeah, forgot. Yeah. I overdrafted JSN last year. I was one of those guys.
Yep, I was a JSN slappy, and we'll
still
see how that
weird
turns
way.
out. Yeah. So we'll round that out there. But Felix, what have you got going on? Where can the people see you and see where your stances take you over the next couple of months?
All right, so I'm kind of a little bit all over the place right now, but I am on Twitter as Crime Buffalo. I have my Patreon is Best Ball Nation, or Patreon/Best Ball Nation, and then I'm doing work over at the Fantasy Football Plus Network with Bradley Salter.
We truly appreciate you being on. Definitely going to have to do some more of these drafts with you as the summer unfolds and we can make the time difference work. On this channel, we've got Rich diving back into the Dynasty streets after his break from the draft. We've got myself. I will be back on Monday with Tyler. We will be possibly diving into some weekly winners drafts over on Underdog. Wednesday, might just have a bit of a RotoViz crossover with Colin Kelly coming on. We appreciate each and every person who was in the chat tonight. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we will be back very soon.